I was getting my undergraduate degree in psychology. It was the spring semester, and I had my internship lined up. I had a summer part-time job that I was going to, and I had just met Matt. We had just started dating, just a few months, and he was going to go to Baltimore, Maryland for his internship. I mean, honestly, things were great. We had great roommates, we had great friends, we were just enjoying life. And then one day, just in an instant, I started to have some health problems, and I started to get really sick. And every time that I would eat, I would get sick. And it was so bad, and I couldn't figure out what was causing me to have these strong stomach problems that I started to develop anxiety. And I couldn't control that either, and I didn't want to tell anybody that anything was wrong because I didn't want people to think I was weird. I didn't want Matt to break up with me. So I just sort of tried to stay in my own little bubble. And I started avoiding social situations. I stopped going out. I stopped doing the things that I love. And if you've ever experienced an anxiety attack before, it is the worst thing in the world. And for me, I would be in the middle of watching a movie with friends, and all of a sudden, my entire body would just go hot from head to toe. And my knees would start to shake, and my teeth would start to chatter, and my heart would just start beating out of my chest. And it felt like I couldn't get the pressure to relieve. And all of a sudden, this just tunnel vision would start to come in, and I could not concentrate on any conversations that I was having, and the only thing I could think about was my exit strategy and how fast I could get out of that situation and get home. And even when I got home, it would take me a good 12 hours to overcome and get myself sort of back down to a state of normal. And this was happening to me sometimes multiple times a day, almost every single day, until I sort of hit my breaking point. It was that summer, I was home, Matt was gone, he was in Baltimore, and I can remember waking up in the morning, tears in my eyes, couldn't get out of bed, and I just knew I had thrown myself into a depressive state, and it was starting to really affect me and everything else in my life. And I remember calling my mom that morning and saying, "Mom, I know that I need to get some help. I know that I cannot go on like this. I needed to make a decision that I was going to make a change, that I was not going to let this control me." And even though I made that decision in that moment, it didn't get easy. It just wasn't like all of the symptoms went away and I was fine and I was happy. That was just the start of a 12 to 18 month process of getting therapy, of taking yoga classes, of teaching myself to breathe and meditate and focus on the happy place and learn how to control the symptoms of IBS, but also anxiety. And I will tell you, I am not rehabilitated. I still go through this pretty frequently. I will have sort of a relapse, and I constantly have to work at it. But it started with a decision that day, and a choice, and a few things that I learned along the way that I'm going to share with you today. So the next thing is this. The minute I made that decision, I needed to have a clear outcome of why I was going to get up every day and make myself do hard things. And I had to visualize what I wanted my life to be like. What did I want to be 3 to 5 years ago? Who was the Melanie that I wanted to become? Have a job, maybe be engaged or married, buy a house. And I knew that if I stayed in the state that I was in that moment, I wasn't going to be able to get those things. And isn't that our business too? Don't we set goals and determine our why and visualize our outcome and attach our goals in our business to things that have a deep meaning to us and bring us joy? And I thought about my first 6 months as a Beachbody coach, and I had no idea what I was doing. But I remember setting a goal to earn $500 for the holidays. And I remember thinking to myself, if I could earn $500 for my Christmas presents for our family, how much of an impact would that make on our family? Number one, we were a young couple with 2 small kids living on a single family income, and while we were making ends meet, there was no extra in our budget. And the holidays, while they were a joyous time, if you know my husband, he saves. And it would cause us a lot of stress, and we would argue about money. And so I thought to myself, if I could earn just $500, then that would relieve stress between Matt and I. We could write that check, to our credit cards and just pay it all off, and then in January, we wouldn't have to worry about scrimping and saving and not being able to enjoy. And I visualized that every single day as I went into my office and I opened my laptop. I thought about my kids, I thought about our relationship, and I kept track on a whiteboard every single time I sold a challenge pack or a Shakeology on HD. I would tally it up until I got to 500. And every time I got an objection, every time somebody canceled, every time somebody, canceled their Shakeology, I thought, keep going, know your outcome. You know why you're working so hard to reach this goal. Don't lose sight of it. It has meaning to you, and it'll be worth it when you get there. And you know what? You know your outcome, and some of you are sitting in this audience right now, you know what you want out of this business, and you can visualize it, but I bet you're hesitating, right? I bet in your mind you're starting to think, what if? Okay, if I take action and I take action now, what if this happens? What if that person says yes? How will I train them? And I remember thinking that to myself, right? I remember hesitating and thinking, well, what if I start going out to social situations? What happens if I have an anxiety attack? And what happens if I can't get out? And I had to learn to stop myself in the moment and take that action. Because the longer you hesitate, the more you're going to talk yourself out of that thing that you know is going to make the difference to help you achieve the goal you want to achieve. How many of you have read the book, The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins? Anybody? And I wrote this outline before I read that book. And then everything in that book just reaffirmed that we have to learn to just take that leap of faith and trust the process. And that it takes courage to do the things that scare the living crap out of you with no guarantee that you're going to have success. But keep that outcome close to your heart. And this one, how many of you know what I'm talking about when we talk about shiny objects? Do you have those? We all get distracted. We're on a good roll. Our life is going great. We're building momentum in our business. We're starting to have success, and then bam, somebody comes in and dangles a carrot. You know what I'm talking about. Well, this actually happened to me in my fitness. So I started with Insanity. It was the first workout program that I chose to do. And in the first 30 days, right, I was committed. I mean, when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I printed out the calendar. I checked off the box every day on that workout program. And I was cardioing myself to death. Oh, it's 2 pounds in 30 days. 2. So what happens? Doubt. Okay, insecurity. Oh, and those Beachbody transformations, they're Photoshop. This company is a scam. That doesn't really work. I mean, that's what was going through my mind. I'm like, what the heck? I am working so hard, and my body's not changing. And what happened is all of a sudden I start to see around me this pill, this wrap, this quick fix. You don't have to work out. You don't have to eat right. You can lose 30 pounds. And I started to get distracted by all of those shiny objects. My coach, she asked me, Melanie, are you following the nutrition plan? And I said, well, yeah. I'm drinking Diet Pepsi instead of regular Pepsi, and I've switched from, white bread to wheat bread, and I eat those 100-calorie packs. Like, yeah, I'm doing really good. And she was like, oh, whoa, there's your problem. 80% of your results are going to come from the food that you eat. And she's like, all right, we got to teach you how to eat clean. We got to teach you how to do the nutrition plan and the portion control. And as much of work as that was, I knew that my outcome was not just to lose the weight, but to create a lifestyle change. And so I went all in. The next 30 days, I chose to get focused on the nutrition, and I meal planned, and half the time we didn't even like the food that we were eating, and we would throw it away. But over that next 30 days, I lost 9 pounds. For a total of 11 pounds with Insanity. But more importantly than the weight lost was that I achieved my outcome. I taught myself how to live a healthy lifestyle. I then taught my children and my family and the people that I love how to not give up, how to understand that weight doesn't come off right away, that you have to give it time. I can see when my challengers start to struggle, I can ask that simple question, what is your nutrition like? And because I didn't get distracted by the shiny objects or the quick fixes that were out there, I had become a better teacher and a better coach and a better wife and mom because of that. You know what? We commit to these goals and we say that we're going to do them. And the first thing that we have to do is we got to create a plan. And on the day that I got out of bed and I said, okay, I'm drawing a line in the sand. I'm not going down that path. I'm not going to be a victim. I began researching. I mean, Google and YouTube, you can find anything you want about anything on there. Anxiety, depression, IBS, what are the signs, what are the symptoms? I learned everything that I could, and I became a student because I knew the best way to build my confidence was to understand what I was going through, so that as situations came up, I could surround myself by people that had already gone through what I had gone through, and I could do it too. And when I became a Beachbody coach, I did the same thing. You know, I signed up to be a coach, and the only thing that I knew was insanity. That's the only program that I had ever done. So I didn't know what Shakeology was, or what network marketing, or the business opportunity. And so I sat down with my little 3-ring binder, and every single afternoon when the boys would take a nap, I would go through and I would take notes on every video in the Coach Online office. Why? Because it's my job. Everything that I need to know is right in front of me. I mean, if you want to know how to be a diamond coach, all you have to do is go to YouTube. I mean, every coach in here has made a video about how to do the thing you want to do. You just have to create the plan and execute it, right? And then, thank you. And then we have to practice that discipline. I know it's so simple, so simple. We all talk about being disciplined. It's not easy. It's not easy to be disciplined, but it is the game changer for you. And I think about the people that come into my business, and I think to myself, man, I don't care if a person that I'm speaking to has 30,000 Instagram followers, or an amazing transformation, or is a personal trainer with 20,000 members at a gym. I don't care how much talent or skill that you were born with, or what your placement is, if you're already a coach in an organization, or if you're on the weak leg or strong leg, or if you're got in early. The only thing that matters is what you do with those God-given talents you've been given. And the only way to have success is to be disciplined enough to show up when it's hard, when there are a lot of objections, and when there are a lot of no's. To be focused on creating results-driven habits that bring your natural skills to light. And then you know what? The more success that you have, the more obstacles you're going to be faced with. Don't let that be a sign. As you move up the ladder in life and in your business, when you hit roadblocks, because there will be roadblocks in your business, don't let it stop you. Don't let it get inside of your head and make you think that you aren't worthy of success. In 2014, the first year that I was the top coach, I was a superstar diamond. I was a part of the Millions Club. We had paid off all of our debt. I was speaking on stage at Summit. I had the biggest team of elite coaches I had ever had before, and man, I could get a challenge group started, I could support customers, and I could help get a new coach started, right? But now you throw a bunch of amazing leaders that are strong-willed at me, and you tell me I've got to lead a team, and I'm scared to freaking death. You know what happened? I started to get anxious. I started to get nervous. What if I fail them? What if I'm not a good leader? And I started to throw myself back into that depression. And instead of saying to myself, Melanie, this is a sign you've accomplished enough, you need to slow down, I said, go back to being a student. Go and listen to John Maxwell. Go listen to Simon Sinek, Why Leaders Eat Last. Become a student, learn everything there is to know about being a leader, and practice and be disciplined every day to learn the skills that you need to become the leader that you want to become. And you know, as hard as that was to get through that moment, it was in those moments that really defined my path for me. And I think even now, I'll get people that will say to me, you know, Melanie, haven't you accomplished it all? Like, when are you going to stop? Come on, right? How many more times are you going to stand up on that stage? And I think to myself, I can never stop stoking this fire. Just like I can never stop waking up in the morning and doing that practice of deep breathing and meditation and making sure that I cut out time for myself so that I don't end up back where I started. I do that in my business too. Because I've made a commitment. I've made a commitment to the people that I signed up on my team, and I told them I would train them. And then I'd be there with them every single step of their journey. And then I wouldn't leave their side. And that means that I have to keep leading from the front, and I have to keep stoking that fire. And maybe it looks differently than it did 5 years ago, but for me, I feel like it's my duty to make sure that I stay relevant, I stay coachable, that I stay up on the latest trends on social media, because I know, and I've seen it, and I've watched it happen to others, that when you start to let your foot off the gas, or you start to think that it's just easy coasting, and that things are just gonna happen for you, your fire starts to burn a little less, and it puts off a little less heat. And we're all faced with a choice. Whether we're going to focus on opportunity, and we're going to look at things in a positive light, or we're going to think that we're at a disadvantage. And I was in Italy in June for the Elite 10 trip, and I threw a little Melanie Mitro temper tantrum in my hotel room. Because I got sick that morning before we went on, I wanted to go on this boat ride, and I got sick. And I stood in front of Matt with tears in my eyes, and I'm like, I hate this stupid anxiety, I hate that I have to go through this. Why can't I just be normal like everybody else? Why can't I just go have fun? And he's like, Melanie, it's okay, it's who you are. You just have to embrace who you are and go with it. And it was just kind of in that moment that I realized, all right, I'm not at a disadvantage unless I think I am. It's the same thing in our business. We can look at some of the obstacles and the roadblocks and we can think that they're happening to us, or we can say, this is happening because I know that this is going to be something that I'm going to use in my future to help others. And that I make a choice right now to focus on opportunity versus disadvantage. And anytime I get stuck or kind of sucked into that negativity, Tony Robbins taught me this. He taught me I watched one of his YouTube videos, right? I watched one of his YouTube videos where he said, every time you think you have tried it all, every time you say to yourself, I've tried it all and nothing is working, I want you to sit down and I want you to make a list of everything that you've tried. And I find myself doing this very often. Okay, I'm stuck at a point in my business or in my life, list it out. And then wouldn't you know, you always figure out that you have not tried everything. But there are way more, different approaches to social media or different approaches to people and the way you can talk to them. And there are definitely more people out there that need our help than we recognize. Sometimes we just get sucked into this beachbody bubble and we don't realize that when we lift up our head that there are more people in this world that need what we have to offer. And we have to find those 3 things that we can do right now that can change our attitude to be focused on opportunity. And you know what? We focus on others. This is a big one for me. How many of us get sucked into, what's my rank? How many star diamond am I? Oh, what's my commission this week? Or is my volume high or is my volume low? Or we get sucked into thinking about, okay, what's the next rank that I want to get to? And we get so laser focused on that goal that we forget why we're here. God has a funny way of reminding us what our purpose is, right? He stops us. He stops you from having success in those moments. And every time I get focused on those things, on the numbers, I find that my business slows down. So in 2014, when I said, okay, I'm going through a hard time and I sort of had this setback with a lot of anxiety that's come back up, instead of keeping it all to myself like I did in college, I'm going to actually share it this time. And I put it out there on Facebook that I was really struggling with anxiety and that I was going to go into my workout space and I was going to do PIO. And that I visualized checking all of my junk at the door and I spend the next 20 minutes in my own space, breathing, listening to Shalene, listening to her talk, listening to her speak positivity into my life. And because I shared that and I showed people how I get through it, I received this outpouring of people that wanted to join me. And I thought, I should do a group about this. I should take all the tools that I've learned over the past 15 years that have helped me to overcome, and I should put it into a challenge group where I teach people the nutrition and Shakeology and PIO, and then how to just relieve some of that anxiety and stress. And I didn't care if people bought a challenge pack, or if they were on Shakeology, or if they already had PIO. I just let people in. And that That was a defining moment for me because I realized, number one, when I care more about the people and their success than what kind of paycheck I'm getting, I'm going to be blessed in return. I had the most coach signups. Thank you. I had the most referrals, the best transformation stories, and I developed the best relationships coming out of that. So, in closing, because I'm out of time and they're going to kick me off the stage. The word that comes to my mind as I leave you here today is this. It's elevate. It's elevate yourself. I know that you are sitting in this audience and some of you have some things that are weighing pretty heavy on you in your life. And I want to tell you that I understand it is not easy. But you have a choice. It's time to draw the line in the sand. Which way are you going to go? Victim of the circumstance or rise up and overcome that obstacle? Make a choice. Visualize that outcome. You write it down, and every morning before you get out of bed, you envision your outcome. Promise me you'll take action immediately, and you won't overthink it. I know it takes work, but you will get there. And if you become committed to this path of personal growth and excellence, I promise you that no matter what obstacle you're faced with right now, you can turn it into your own recipe for success. Thank you, Team Beachbody. Enjoy the rest of your life.